Hello everyone. I have in front of me a 1937 dated WZ-29 rifle made by FB Radom, and while I already have a couple videos already out there about WZ-29s in general, this one is particularly special, which I think deserves its own video. Now, the first thing that you'll notice about the rifle, kind of looking at it as a whole, is that generally it's in remarkably great condition, as many of these rifles kind of have been through a lot, in service in the Polish military, then potentially captured by the Germans, reissued in World War II, and then possibly used post-war after that. And the other thing that you'll notice about this rifle is that it is duffel cut, as you'll see that the handguard and the stock itself are cut. Here's a closer look of that duffel cut. Now, you might be not familiar with the term duffel cut, and what that specifically refers to is a lot of times in World War I and World War II, when US soldiers would capture a rifle and want to bring it back, typically what they would do is break it down into the individual components and try to stuff everything into as small of a package as they could, or shove it into their duffel bags. And generally at that point, the stock was the longest component, and they would just cut it down so that it would fit properly. Now, for the personal side of this particular rifle, this was captured by the grandfather of the gentleman that I bought this from, who served as a US tank commander in World War II. And unfortunately, the details behind its capture and the story basically behind it is kind of lost to time, but I was told by the previous owner that since he's had it for 30 years, he's never fired it. And to be honest, I think that his grandfather also didn't fire it or pretty much use it other than keep it in storage. Now, what makes this rifle very special is the fact that I think that it served the majority of its time in Polish service, and probably during World War II, basically stuck in storage in a warehouse, and didn't really see any active service out in the field. And the reason I suspect that is going to be based on a couple of things. So let's get a closer look. The bluing on the metal of this rifle is in remarkable shape and has the rich, deep, dusky blue on metal parts, and no thinning or browning like you'd see of Polish Mausers that have had a hard service life. The stock finger grooves are remarkably sharp and well defined, and the bolt handle cutout on the right hand side of the stock is also very sharp and crisp. On the right hand side of the buttstock, there are the nice inspector proof marks of the D over 2 and an oval stamp of Inspector Major Dzierżynski, and the WB in a circle kind of further to the rear. And at the semi-pistol grip, you can see the nice Polish eagle proof and the inspection mark of the D over 2 and an oval that was mentioned earlier. And the serial number on the bottom of the stock can be easily read. It's a bit difficult to capture on camera, but the chamber of this rifle is extremely clean. Shots of the bore condition are tough to capture, but this is the best I could do. Just note that it's practically a mirror. On the small parts like the bolt stop and on the rear sight slider, the parts seem to have some sort of fire bluing, which is very vibrant in certain light, so almost kind of a muted blue glow to them. And here's some more of that vibrant fire bluing. There you can kind of see some of that fire bluing on the trigger of the rifle. When I first disassembled this rifle and took the barreled action out of the stock as well as the trigger guard, what I did notice was that underneath the wood line, the metal parts still had grease located on them. So I'm wondering if that was still potentially the original assembly grease that was put on the rifle at FB Radom in 1937. So I thought that was pretty cool to see. Now with the trigger guard pulled from the action, you'll see that it still has some of that grease from the factory, which I thought was pretty cool. And just a quick aside that I thought was kind of cool, when the magazine follower is taken out, it's, you know, polished and in the white over here, but on these other surfaces, it's like a, I don't know, like a muted bluing, maybe even parkerized. So I don't know, I just thought that that was cool, that it's a like a two-tone kind of pattern to it. And when I did an inspection of this rifle, I didn't see any indications of German capture rework, like serialization of blank parts, any depot markings on the stock or anything like that. One other thing I just want to point out about this rifle is that it has a original Polish Mauser sling as defined by the characteristics that you're seeing on screen here. And this one actually has a intact sling keeper in the back, which is quite rare to see, because I don't know, for the most part, whenever I come across these rifles, they either don't have a sling or they're fitted with like a K98K sling and it just looks, you know, like it doesn't belong. So in light of that evidence that was presented, I'd say that the factors kind of lend to the idea that this rifle really didn't see much use and was just kept in a storage rack someplace, you know, from 1937 onwards through the war. So as this is a 1937 dated example, it does share some of the common characteristics that I've noticed in the later period WZ-29s that I discussed in a previous video on my channel. There's a shot of the really nice crest on the receiver. On the side rail of the receiver, it is marked WZ-29. On the earlier production years, it was K29. The serial number has the P suffix, which is typical for WZ-29s made in these kind of years of production. There's our matching butt plate, 40494P. And now that we have the handguard removed, we can take a look at the serial number. There it is. And there's our matching serial number on the barrel, which is a given for this rifle, but might as well just document it. Now the bolt on this one is a mismatch, which is unfortunate, but it is at least fitted with the correct Polish WZ-29 bolt of the same P serial block as the rifle, so that's close enough for my liking. The bolt stop spring is riveted. Small parts are not serialized like the bolt stop, the front barrel band, and the front sight. The trigger guard and floor plate are also not serialized. If we pull back on the bolt, we see that the magazine follower is not serialized either. And as we flip up the rear sight, there's the one component of the small parts that continues to be numbered, and that's the rear sight ladder. Now, to be completely honest, when I was first in the process of acquiring this rifle, I thought that I was going to go ahead and have this duffel cut over here repaired, but considering the kind of work that's involved in that, I figured it's best to kind of leave it as is, because as a whole, this rifle kind of represents a nice little time capsule of probably what one of these rifles would have looked like, kind of coming straight from the factory at FB Radom. So I hope you learned something from this video. I really liked taking a closer look at this thing and sharing this information and content with you. Thank you.